G'day, in this video we're discussing some books that really helped me in learning how to draw and paint. Most of the books are by Andrew Loomis, and don't think, oh man, these are going to cost me some money and he's just trying to sell me something. No, it's these are all free. They're all free ebooks. They're out of copyright now, so you can go to your Kinko's or wherever you go to print. You can print them out. Shouldn't cost you too much. And yeah, get into them. So I'll just briefly introduce each book and I guess suggest an order that you should go through them, just so that you're not getting too complicated too fast and then getting overwhelmed and then being like, man, I'll never be a good drawer, and have an old drama there. So the first one I think you should start with these are suggestions, merely suggestions. So Fun with a Pencil, which is by Andrew Loomis. Some basic techniques showing basic forms, how we can have a logical process in constructing drawings. And yeah, that goes through a lot of stuff, heads, bodies, figures, stylized figures, more cartoony stuff. Bit of perspective, shadow, lighting. It's a very good introduction to foundational stuff, fundamental stuff. The next one I think you should study a lot is Successful Drawing. This book is really good. It's definitely at the top of my list. It's #1 in, I think, learning how to draw and paint, because it covers everything. It covers foundational things, the basic forms, and then giving examples of those forms. How the eye sees, some different, I guess, alliterative, proportion, placement, 5 P's. These apply to making a good picture. And then also the 5 C's, which is more about a process to checklist off your picture making process. That's going to be very logical, very solid, and if you follow these things and you have that foundational knowledge behind it, and obviously the hand skills to produce it, then you can't go wrong. So it's explaining very basic concepts, but then some I guess complicated, depends on where you're at in your art, in your knowledge. Then goes into perspective. This has probably the best, I wouldn't say the best, but if you want to understand perspective, I highly recommend this book, because it doesn't just briefly explain it. It goes into some very complicated but also easy to understand methods to perspective, from 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective, and then also how you can measure and keep scale consistent within your picture, so your man isn't at the wrong, like your figure isn't at the wrong scale within the image and things like that. So you'll see for yourself when you go through this book. I suggest you study it progressively, go in stages, because it is presented in a way where I don't think you should skip ahead. I think you should go through it, and you won't make mistakes. You'll be crawling before you start running. and you won't fall over. So the third book is Figure Drawing for All It's Worth, also by Andrew Loomis. As it says, this is figure drawing, presents very good practical information, but then it also has this simplified forms in drawing a kind of mannequin and these little things you can play around with, and then go into complicated. The beauty of Loomis's stuff, he always begins with simple and then it begins to get a bit more mature, I suppose, but yeah, you'll make less mistakes along the way by following it progressively. Another one is Drawing the Heads and Hands. This is, I guess, complementary to Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. Going into, obviously, more specifically, the heads and the hands. Won't explain this one too much. Yeah, it shows some really good stuff, which will help you understand that there are proportional differences between a child and an adult. So, for example, the eyebrows are the halfway point vertically on a child's head, whereas the eyes, not the eyebrows, are the vertical halfway point on the adult's head. So another one is Eye of the Painter. Maybe look at this one before the figure drawing, but Eye of the Painter is a bit more art history and art appreciation, but also developing practical information from that. So understanding how the design elements and principles are presented within beautiful art, so you can then take these principles and put them into your own work, and that's what's going to make your work stand out when you have that solid knowledge being put into the practical. So Eye of the Painter, really cool book, also by Andrew Loomis. Creative Illustration. I probably hesitated to bring this one out before the other ones because it's a pretty long book. It's like 300 pages, but it explains a lot of composition and devices you can use within your work, and very much applicative to commercial illustration, but I guess the same techniques are used across the board, whether it's if you're doing fantasy art or fine art or commercial art. So these is really good. Gives you some ideas as well into concepting ideas for your image, for your illustration, and then also that fundamental knowledge into what is it that makes a good illustration, and then, as I said, it has devices in how to attract attention to your image, how to make it more exciting, a bit of color theory, things like that. Practical stuff, copying from photos, some tips for that. There's heaps in there. I can't explain too much. It would require a whole video just for each book. So another one, Practice and Sights of Drawing. This is more theoretical, probably in the same vein as Eye of the Painter. It has a lot of presents a lot of what you can learn from looking at masterworks and fine artists, but then also some practical stuff as well that you can apply, and techniques for copying from a model visually, and this one, as you can see, has a process of how we would do an oil painting in grayscale, starting with a charcoal drawing, and then, you know, voila, he's got this one here. That was Practice Science of Drawing by Harold Speed. Read through it, it's very helpful. Another one, this is complementary to everything. This is if you're looking for a good artistic anatomy book, I highly recommend this one, because it not only has pictures of, you know, muscles and things, but it also breaks them down into forms, solid forms. Also some techniques for copying from a model. And then he has a lot of his own drawings. It breaks down a lot of the body parts, so, you know, the legs and the torso. A lot of diagrammatical stuff and proportion stuff. This is very helpful. So yeah, like I said, the purpose of this video was to introduce these books and just what I recommend and what's helped me. So I recommend you look at them. If you hate them, don't read them. But I can give my own testimony, my own guarantee that these books are amazing. These books have everything you need to learn for foundations. But you know, obviously don't narrow yourself only to these ones. You're going to find a lot of learning just in your own study and analysing, you know, good art that's out there, and speaking to other artists and getting critiques for your work on forums and things. But yeah, I highly recommend these, and they're free, so you can't really go wrong. So thanks for watching, hope you learned something. If you have questions, if you have specific questions, ask in the comments. If there's anything you want me to explain further, ask in the comments, and I'll have a link to download these. So this is Cam, howtodigitalpaint.com, and yeah, have a good one.